Welcome to The Tech Ranch, live and local here on Super Talk 1270. The latest gadgets, online security, websites and apps, social media, and so much more. How can technology help you? Let's find out. It's time for The Tech Ranch on Super Talk 1270.
From our studios in beautiful Mandan, North Dakota, along the mighty Missouri River, here is your guru of geek, Marlo Anderson.
This is the reason I live in North Dakota. I love how it looks today outside, you guys.
Oh, okay.
You know, I know it's probably not the safest when we get fog and freezing temperatures.
Yeah.
You know, the roads are getting a little slick and things like that. But I love the trees.
Yep.
You know, and when the sun comes out later today, after this fog burns off, and that sun is glistening through all of those trees. Oh my goodness. This is, to me, what North Dakota is about.
Actually, if it wasn't for the ice, I'd kind of be with you on that.
Yeah, it's just, you know, if you didn't have to get out and about.
Yeah, if I could just stay home and look at it.
And I know
from
it put some pressure on the power lines and things like that, too,
Yeah.
but it just looks so amazing. It looks so amazing.
Yeah,
So.
and it wasn't that foggy, really.
You know, it really wasn't, and I don't think it's going to be a big pressure on power lines and things either, so... anyway, not to get off topic right away, but so you have a virus protection, the best router, and a firewall in place. So you're feeling pretty secure about having your data protected. You even have gone so far back as to actually back things up in the cloud in case something crazy happens. Well, something crazy has happened.
Of course.
So we'll be discussing the latest vulnerabilities and how it impacts everyone. You really want to stay tuned to the second half of the show for that, because this really does impact everyone in profound ways. So we'll be talking a lot about that. Drones are doing some pretty amazing things, but did you ever think that drones would be entertaining us? We'll have an update for you on that. Planned obsolescence in electronics. Do companies actually do this on purpose? We're going to get into that as well. At the control panel, producer extraordinaire Jim Walsh.
Hello.
It's good to be back, man.
Oh, yeah, you've been away for a spell.
It's been a month
You've been
since
out there
I've been
doing
in the
that
studio.
Vegas-y thing, yeah.
It's really good
Well,
to be
first
back,
there was
so.
Christmas, then there was
There's
New
New
Year's,
Year's.
then you, I think, came back for 1 week.
I'm not sure. Was I in there?
No,
I think Dave was here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, no, that first week, you were all on the phone.
We were all on the phone, yeah.
Last week, Dave was here, and
That's
you were
right.
on the phone.
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah. So we've been out and about trying to cover a bunch of CES stuff and PPAI stuff, and let's see what else. There was another conference in there too that I went to. Kind of been pretty busy with all that stuff. But anyway, we're really going to get right into things here. So, of course, at the other microphone, Mr. Rockin Dave Blair. How you doing, man?
Hey, we're doing good, and
Good.
I'm going through a little withdrawal because of my Vikings, but, you know, they let me down every year, so, you know, I'm over it now.
I think you'd actually have withdrawal if they actually made it all the way.
Oh,
Just
man,
saying,
for
so.
sure. Yeah, but,
Yeah.
hey, best is that we still can root for Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You bet.
Absolutely. So, you know, we had quite an interesting show in Vegas with CES, and I think one of the highlights, Dave, was when you and I wandered down to the Bellagio and watched the water show and had a little extra treat with that. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Well, first of all, the Bellagio does such a great job anyway with the water and the effects that come with that, as well as the music and everything and how they synchronize all that. But,
Right.
yeah, and what Marl is referring to is that out of the sky appeared these little dots, and they started kind of forming, and pretty soon there was more and more and more of them, and as you may know or may not know, those were drones flying around. This obviously was at night. And it was just really amazing seeing how synchronized they were. They were trying to do it with the water and
Right.
and the music and everything like that. And they had different lights on them. And you're right, it looked like explosions from fireworks.
Yeah.
Without the noise.
Right. Yeah, it was actually I thought it was very, very interesting, and I thought it was fun to watch. And, you know, the thing is that you can probably do amazing things with that. I mean, so instead of, you know, in a fireworks scenario, for example, you just have to shoot the mortars off, and you kind of get an idea what you're going to get, especially if you're planning a big fireworks show. But when you have drones, I mean, you could spell out "Welcome to Mandan" in the sky, right? And
Exactly.
you could have a big flag of the U.S. flag up there, and you could go Vikings, and you could do all kinds of cool stuff. And even when they were landing afterwards, it just looked like little firelights or fireflies in the sky as they were coming down.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Well, the other thing too is that you wouldn't have to worry about dry conditions, because a lot of time with fireworks, they're always concerned about having, and even though that they're monitored and they're run by probably the firemen in regards to some of the stuff that I've been involved with as far as fireworks, this is something that anybody can do all the time.
Yeah. I think about, I don't know if you'll ever replace fireworks for like the 4th of July or whatever,
Probably not.
But you have shows like the Bellagio and maybe Disney and places that sometimes do fireworks every evening anyway.
Yeah.
You could do, I think, much more amazing things by lighting up drones and putting them in the sky and have them do cool little things,
Well, there was, I think, one of the objects was a heart,
right,
that they put together.
And I suppose we should, each of the drones were lit up, but they had color changing LEDs on them too, so they could be blue, green, red, whatever it was, and so they could change colors. They could, the computer would tell them to go make a heart, and they would make a heart. They would spell IBM in the sky or CES in the sky. I think they did the Intel logo at the end, didn't they? Yeah.
Sometimes it was maybe a little hard to really capture the exact thing, but I mean, still being able to program these drones to spell out and do images and different colors was amazing.
Yeah.
I think there were, 250 of them?
250 of them at least.
Yeah.
It may have been even more than that. I don't know, but it was pretty amazing.
And I don't know, because obviously we didn't get close up to them, but how big what are these small drones?
These are just small drones, yeah. But I would imagine that they handle a little bit of weather, so if they get thrown into wind of 20 miles an hour or whatever, they would probably handle that okay.
Yeah.
So
cities, I think, can start looking at using these things for some of their events that they want to do and promoting, or even concerts, all of that.
See, I actually think the business model with this is that there's going to be firms that are going to offer this as a service. You offer staging, you offer sound equipment, you offer a drone display.
Yep.
So, and the other thing with that is that it doesn't have to be just lights. Now, at CES, there were some drone displays in cages because obviously they didn't want to get people getting close to them, but they were dancing to music. They had actually they had them, moving in kind of, it's kind of hard to describe, but, they'd have 20 or 30 drones doing formations and cool things. So this doesn't have to be just at night.
Right.
This could be done during the day, and they could spell out "Welcome to Mandan" in the day sky if they wanted to. It's just a matter of the size of drones you're using and what the effect is that you're after.
Well, and I think what you're going to see too here pretty quickly is that at some of these events, you'll have drones that will be part of it, so they could be delivering things to your table, or messages, and even some kind of what I would describe as a be prepared for this, or even spelling out what might be happening in the next segment. Like we're going to do right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're right. It could be almost your menu board.
Exactly.
If you wanted to. So, all right, everybody, after the break, we're going to talk about planned obsolescence. Are companies actually doing this to us? So come on back.
Right now, 19.
On Twitter, Facebook, online, and YouTube. supertalk1270.com.
Follow the Guru of Geek at facebook.com/The Tech Ranch, or Twitter at Guru of Geek, or thetechranch.com. Here again is your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
And we want to thank everybody who joins us on this show across the country and around the world on the Blueberry Network, on the Tech Podcast Network. If it's Tech, it's here. We're on the Roku, iTunes, tuned in, the Amazon Alexa. I could trigger everybody's Alexa right now to start listening to us on there. I just love that feature.
Yeah.
But if you ask Alexa to listen to the Tech Ranch podcast, it'll actually come up that way, just instantaneously. It's really cool. And, of course, our own app, Radio Pup. So there's all kinds of places that you can catch the show. But if you got an Alexa, try that feature out sometime. Just say, listen to the Tech Ranch podcast, and the latest one that we have on there will just come right up. So it's pretty cool.
I gotta get Alexa. Can I change her name?
She will. Yes, you can. You can call her computer, just like in Star Trek.
Hello, computer.
Yes, hello, computer. You can be like Scotty and do that. It's pretty hilarious. So, anyway, how do you feel about this, Jim and Dave, about companies who probably build obsolescence into their products?
Well, it's probably nothing new. They were saying Ford and the whole thing with Ralph Nader 50 years ago with Ford and GM supposedly doing exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. So this has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And you know, every product has some planned obsolescence to it, right? I mean, we buy clothes. We don't expect our clothes to last forever.
Well, nothing lasts forever. There's this thing in science called entropy, in which things eventually break down if you use them.
Right.
You know.
And even if you don't use them, sometimes they break
That's
down.
right.
So that's just kind of how it works. But so Dave, what do you think? I mean, do you think it's a smart business model that companies do this, or do you think that there's going to be backlash? And we're going to get into examples here shortly. So
Well, I'm sure there's going to be backlash. I think in the past, probably a lot of people weren't even aware
Right.
of some of that stuff happening. Well,
Right.
now it's becoming more aware. Wait a minute. No wonder I was having problems with my phone.
Right.
You know, it was slowing down like we talked about in the break.
Right.
You know, so you know, I'm sure, like Jim said too, it's probably been around, but like all things that are out there right now, it doesn't take much to get on and Google it and find out, hey, what is happening with my phone and why is it slowing down?
And you know, so just to bring everybody up to speed here, so a lot of people have thought that Apple was doing something to their phone. So basically, you know, they're getting close to launching a new model, and for some reason, your Apple phone just, you know, it seems sluggish. It's just not working like it should. And recently here, they just came out and stated that they were actually adding updates to their older phones, stating that they were protecting the battery on these phones, I suppose, from overheating or what have you. And there may be something to that, but in order to make that happen, they have to actually slow down the phone a little bit. So it's not that you thought it was getting more sluggish. It really is getting more sluggish because Apple has been pushing these things out. So then, out of frustration, right?
Yeah.
You're like, my goodness, this phone just doesn't work like it should anymore. So then you finally decide that, you know, maybe it's time for me to go upgrade my phone.
Yep.
So then you drop another $500 or $1,000 and you get yourself a new phone. And I'd be willing to bet that 2 years from now or a year and a half from now or whatever, you're going to be going through the same process again. And there is something to be said. I mean, we all add new apps to our phones all the time. Yep. We do things to them and it does slow them down, just like computers. But it shouldn't be, in my opinion, it really shouldn't be a planned obsolescence. And in fact, I think it's, you know, in Italy, they're actually being taken to court. Both Samsung and Apple are being taken to court for this because they have laws against planned obsolescence. And I don't know if do we have something like that in the United States?
You know, that's interesting. I'm not sure. And, you know, as we know, Europe, usually they're a lot more lenient when it comes to a lot of regulations
Right.
and that kind of stuff. But, you know, they're always looking out for the consumer as well. So I guess that would be a good question to find out if we have anything like that in the United States.
And I know that, you know, technology does march on. And this is the challenge that we all have with this stuff. I mean, you know, apps come out. They're not built for older models of phones. I mean, you and I are in app development too. I mean, it's one of these things, and we have to decide how far back do we want to make this app compatible. You know, do you want to go back to the iPhone 4 or the iPhone 6 or, you know, Android 3.8 or, you know, I think we're at Android 8 something now. We're getting close to 8. So, you know, how far back do these app developers need to go? So then if you want to use something like Lyft and Uber, for example, then you have that choice to make. You know, is the value of those services outweighing the cost of the new phone too? So then, you have all of this other stuff going on that kind of makes our devices obsolete anyway. So,
I think the cool thing would be is to find out, how many people really update their phones every year or 2 years. And
what schedule are you on?
What's that?
I mean,
I'm on a 2-year schedule.
So are you
now.
So do you do the 2-year schedule, and as soon as the payment process is over, whatever you're in there, get a new phone right away? Or do you wait a little bit?
I usually wait a little bit.
Okay.
Especially when the new phones, because I was just down getting my third phone.
Right.
Because I was having issues with my Droid. And they said that, wait like 2 months when the new one comes out, and then you can get the old one. And
right.
I'm one of those, I'm kind of cheap. And so I said, well, how much am I going to save? And they said half.
Yeah. Well, it's just like my new phone I have right here, the Note 8 Plus, it's a fantastic phone. Spends almost $1,000 on this phone, right? And now I'm sure within the next month it's going to be $400 or $500.
In fact, I was looking at that, and they said, okay, how long do I have to wait? And they said 3 months. And then you can upgrade to that.
Right.
And they said it'll be about half.
So a person should really, you really should wait 3 to 4 or 5 months anyway after a new phone comes out, so that you get the best deal on it. You really do. So Jim, are you like on a two-year plan too? I mean, I
believe I am, yeah.
So do you kind of go through the same process? Do you wait to get a phone, or are you one of those like
No, when I'm ready to get a phone, we get a phone.
Okay. So you don't wait for the 2-year thing or whatever. Okay.
I don't think we've ever actually waited out the full 2 years.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're in there, because I know, like with my plan, and this is the other thing that drives me crazy with plans. Boy, we're really getting off topic here now, but I hate that the phone costs $900, right? But the payment plan over 2 years costs $900. You can't just pay them $900 and get a little bit of a cash discount or whatever for it. They want you locked into that time period with them.
Yeah.
So I find that interesting. But usually in about a year and a half, I think in 18 months or whatever, I can go get a different phone if I want to pay the difference off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never had an issue with going in early as long as you're trading up. They're happy with it.
Well, and I think like we talked about too, and I know we're getting off topic here, but the amount of storage that the older phones have versus the newer phones, and all the apps that you have on your phone, pretty soon you're out of storage.
Right. Well, we're taking more photos and videos, and we have more megapixels on our cameras now, so that takes more space, and everything adds up to all needing more space on our phones all the time. So yeah. So are you? How do you feel about Apple doing this? And I'm just curious what you guys think.
Well, I guess, like you said, it probably doesn't surprise me, but on the other side, we as consumers, we're paying for this service, and if they're trying to kind of play games with us in regards to saying, well, you got to change and you got to update because we're concerned about the battery and all that kind of stuff. Just be honest with us, and tell us really what is going on. And
so you're thinking that maybe when the firmware update comes out, it should state in the firmware update before you do that, hey, if you update, if you use this piece of firmware now, that you're going to have slower times, but we're telling you this. But there's also a possibility that you can have a problem with your battery in the future if you don't do the update.
Exactly.
So what do you think about that?
Well, I've never had a phone or a pad where the battery didn't get really slow after about 6 months.
So this is a common thing anyway.
Yeah.
So
really sluggish, real short-lived.
So when you say sluggish or slow, you're talking about that doesn't hold a charge like it used to.
Doesn't hold a charge nearly as long. Yeah.
What used to be what would last a whole day now lasts for half a day or whatever.
I'm online for an hour and I'm ready to recharge.
Right.
Well, and we talked about it now. Like with your phone, you can't replace the battery.
No, can't replace it.
See, in my older one, I can.
Right.
And we talked even about getting more power.
Yes.
Going out
when you have the option to buy a new battery, then you can do that. But most of the new phones now, because they're slimming down the size of them, build the batteries right onto the boards. So the cool thing is mine charges wirelessly.
That's right.
I actually love that feature, but you don't get that unless it's built into the board. So all right, everybody, after the break, we will talk about some of these vulnerabilities that have been popping up in processors. You need to stay tuned for this. This is important stuff that we're going to be sharing with you.
Right now, 19.
The Red River Farm Network, Ag News is here on Super Talk 1270.
We're back to the Tech Ranch. Stream this program now at supertalk1270.com. Here is your guru of geek, Marlo Anderson.
So if you're one of those people who've taken extreme precautions to protect your data, protect your processor, or protect your computers and your tablets and your phones and everything else, well, I don't know what to tell you because you're still
not protected? Is that what you're going to say?
You're still very vulnerable. In the last couple of weeks, there's been a couple things that have come out.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and so one of them is called Spectre. The other one's called Meltdown. These are actual...
Lovely.
Yeah, I know. I love the word Spectre for
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think of a James Bond. Well, in fact, there was a James Bond movie called Spectre a couple of years ago. So, yeah.
That's right.
So we're going to get into... Actually, we're going to talk about Meltdown first because that's the one that is actually... you can probably fix this. But... we're going to get into what it does. So basically, these are processor side. So they're not something that you download by accident, like a virus that comes through an email or a website or whatever.
Yeah.
These vulnerabilities are basically in every device ever made.
Crap.
Going back 20 years.
Poopy.
So if you got a computer that's even running Windows 95, you're probably going to be vulnerable to this. And and the thing is, and this is what scares everybody about this, we don't know how long the bad guys have known about this. So if somebody figured this out 10 or 15 years ago, I mean,
they know.
This may have been the back door that a lot of the credit card processing things of, the theft of credit cards and everything else has gone on. It took until recently that a group of researchers ran across this and like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. So anyway, what it does, Meltdown breaks the most fundamental isolation between user applications and the operating system. I'm just reading this to you. The attack allows a program to access the memory and thus also the secrets of other programs and the operating system. So if your computer has a vulnerable processor, which means, and I'm just telling you right now, you have a vulnerable processor and runs an unpatched operating system, it is not safe to work with sensitive information without the chance of leaking the information.
Mm-hmm.
So even if the software is all good, and this is where it gets really scary, you guys, and everybody listening, is that this actually applies to cloud infrastructure. So if you're thinking that you've been backing your stuff up to the cloud, and you thought that was safer than having it on your computer, and by most measures it is, because we think about this in a virus scenario, right? So you're thinking that if you're backing up to like an Apple or a Carbonite or a Google Drive or OneDrive, they're going to be crazy careful about the stuff you're putting up into their cloud because they don't want to infect everything that they have, right? So they're crazy careful about that, and so it strips anything that it thinks is viruses or whatever that's coming up into your cloud storage, and that's a good thing, right? But nobody's ever thought about the processor before and how that you could actually break in through processors, and this is what's crazy about this. So there are software patches for Meltdown, but this is where it gets really, really kind of interesting. If you apply the software patch, it'll probably reduce the speed of your computer by 30%. So this is like if you were driving 75 miles an hour down the highway, and now you can only drive 55. That's what we're talking about.
I'm thinking back in the 70s
yeah,
when
yeah,
they actually did that.
Yeah. I know, and everybody went crazy,
Nixon
right?
told everybody to slow down to 55.
Yeah, and now I'm at the age that 55 feels pretty good.
Yeah.
Well,
But,
and that's become an issue. Everybody wants things faster
That's
and
correct.
faster and faster,
Yep.
right? And, so is there a compromise here?
So at this time, there is no compromise. So this is what's interesting about this. If you start going to websites, because think about this, computers run everything, right? Everything that you go on the web for is run by a computer. So as companies start patching this, your websites are going to be slower. And then if you patch it, your computer is also slower. So you're gonna have a 30% reduction in speed, probably across the board, on all major websites. Until they have, and what will probably happen is that if they have older servers and that type of thing that are running slower, they'll probably update those to get the speed back. If they have, if they're not running solid-state drives on their servers, for example, they'll probably put a solid-state just to get some speed back. They can do some things that make it faster, add more memory, whatever it looks like, right? But they're going to have to put a lot of money into doing that. And then the other side of this is, so you go to websites, if you think that they're actually, if they're coming in slower, they probably are, and that's because they've patched it, right? Yeah. And then, of course, if you patch your PC or your Mac, then your computer is also running 30% slower. So everything is going to be slowing down as we move forward. This is a big deal, everybody.
I'm kind of curious, where are most of the processors made at?
So, Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
It's probably, that's the one thing that the United States still controls.
Okay.
They are made domestically.
They are made domestically.
Okay.
I was going to guess like Korea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are, but for the most part, they're still here in the United States. So, which is good. I don't know if I would trust, especially with my conspiracy theories with what's going on overseas now.
Right.
I don't know if I'd trust having processors made overseas, but
so why can't we go back and do something with the process?
Well, we can moving forward.
Right.
They will fix this moving forward.
Fix it.
But the thing is how many years is? I mean, we're going to be dealing. I'm telling you right now, you're going to be dealing with this for 15 or 20 years because it's going to take that long for. I mean, when's the last time you updated a computer in this room, Jim? The station. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, and I'm not just picking on you in particular.
Well,
but companies. I have computers at work that are probably 10 or 15 years old.
I do too. This one here is probably that old.
I mean, it does its job, right?
Right.
That's all you. Once it does its job, it's okay.
It does what it needs. I have an old laptop at home I bought in 2000. I could use it if I had to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people. A lot of in a work environment, a lot of people set up a PC and it just does that particular job.
I mean, it's not fancy, but it's a workhorse. If I could probably use it for a few things if I needed to.
So that's the thing. It's going to take all these years to get these old PCs and old Macs out of the system. So that's the challenge.
Is that a conspiracy then too?
Well, as I get older, I become more conspiratorial. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that anybody ever thought this was going to be a thing. So, and I'm sure that probably Intel, I think, and I need to look into this. I don't know if AMD is impacted by this on the Meltdown one. Now the Spectre one impacts everything. So
Spectre.
If you actually decided to go with an AMD chip, I don't know if you're as impacted by Meltdown as IBM chips are. But I'll check into that, and we'll either post that on the website or talk about it next week. And then there's any other questions? You guys all do you understand the Meltdown scenario?
Yeah.
So what do I need to do? If
you
anything?
need to basically. Are you basically a Windows person?
Right now I'm using Firefox mostly.
Okay, for your browser.
Right.
So the best thing you can do is just update. If Microsoft comes out and says, "Hey, we got this update," because they're taking steps to mitigate this. So. But just know that when you do this update and your computer starts feeling like it's just really, really going slow, it probably is. Yeah. And this isn't planned obsolescence, although you could almost state that, couldn't you? Is this where you're going with the conspiracy thing? We were just talking about obsolescence, planned obsolescence.
Yep.
Well, if you want to protect yourself, you're just going to need to go get a new computer with a new processor in it that doesn't have these vulnerabilities to it. So,
well, I know our desktop, we've barely touched the desktop in the last year or so because it just got so slow and so sluggish, and we just haven't gotten around to getting it fixed yet. Because how much does it cost to get that thing, to do a makeover on it?
You kind of get to the point where if it's worth doing it. How old is it, Jim?
It's about 3 years now.
Oh, well, at 3 years old, it probably, it might cost $80 or $100 to get it fixed.
That's about what we figured.
Yeah. If it's older than that, a lot of times it's just worthwhile just to go get a new desktop.
That's what we're going to decide that in the next couple. We've had some financial things to deal with.
Sure.
But as soon as we get our ducks in a row financially, we're definitely going to decide we're either going to get this one fixed for the time being,
right,
or just get a new one.
Right. And a lot of times, I always tell people, if you get to that point where it's a couple, 3, 4 years old, unless you don't want to move all your stuff, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
If you have to move everything over, that's where it gets costly and it's difficult. But if you're just updating a PC for the sake of updating the PC, just go buy a new one for $300. if something's 3 or 4 years old, it'll run circles around the one that's 3 or 4 years old right now.
And
So.
you just went through that. You got a new
Right.
computer. I inherited
Yes,
your old one.
yes.
I still owe you for that, by the way.
Let me ask you something. Yeah.
But that was solid state, and how much
Yeah.
faster that
Oh,
was.
yeah.
I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if you have an old computer and you've got some naughty videos on it, do you have to wipe those? I'm asking for a friend, okay?
Yeah.
I'm asking for a friend who
Yes, you
hopes to remain
probably
nameless.
you probably want to wipe those out. Yes.
Yeah.
Along with other information on your computer.
Nothing.
Yeah.
No, I'm
So-
kidding. I'm kidding.
So, a lot of times if you donate your stuff over, any computer shop in the area will restore it back to factory. Or you might have
Including yours.
Yep.
And this is not a commercial.
It's not a commercial,
Yep.
but it's probably not a bad thing to do, and it'll wipe that hard drive. And there are other. That doesn't mean it's going to totally remove it, because if you wipe it
Right.
out, there's ways that you can get it back. But there are ways that you can totally clean that hard drive. And if you're going to throw the computer away and you may have had some stuff on it, you might want to. You can even just take a big old magnet. and
Yeah,
put it
because
on
we
there.
have like movies downloaded from
Right.
Flickster and that
right,
kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, those you want to move over, but if you have sensitive data, you want to make sure
Right.
that hard drive is cleaned up. So,
Very good.
Yeah. So yeah. So anything else on Meltdown before we get into Spectre?
Yeah. The Meltdown one looks like there's some solutions, but the Spectra might not.
Spectre is a little different creature, everybody. So, if we've scared you enough with Meltdown, I guess we're really going to scare you with Spectre. So
I keep thinking of Phil Spector. Like
Yeah.
He's gonna come in and shoot
yeah.
the computer.
Yeah, exactly.
Gonna break
So,
out of jail. And whatever.
Yeah. So we will be talking about Spectre after the break.
Right now, 21.
On Hannity, weekday afternoons on Super Talk 1270.
Follow the Guru of Geek everywhere he goes. Post your comments or questions at thetechranch.com. Once again, your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
And we are talking about probably not so nice things today. Vulnerabilities in your processors. Normally we talk about viruses and other things that can make your computer do not so nice things, but nobody's ever really talked about what's happening or what's possible with processors and that type of thing before. So we just talked about Meltdown. Another vulnerability is called Spectre. And Spectre is a little bit of a different type of vulnerability. So I'm just going to read this again. Spectre breaks the isolation between different applications. It allows a hacker to trick error-free programs which follow best practices into leaking their secrets. In fact, the safety checks of said best practices actually increase the attack surface and may make applications more susceptible to Spectre. So if you're actually checking for Spectre, means that you've actually allowed Spectre to,
penetrate your.
Yeah, I guess, the best way to, or allow that vulnerability to even be more accessible by would-be hackers.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So Spectre is harder to exploit than Meltdown, but it is also harder to mitigate. So you don't, it's harder for hackers to get access to your system through Spectre, but it's also much more difficult to fix. So I'm just going to go through some things that you need to be aware of. So Spectre is by far the most difficult to fix here. Now, there is not really, there is some talk, it's possible to prevent specific known exploits based on Spectre through software patches, but they haven't been very effective yet. So basically you're vulnerable, even though you've maybe patched Meltdown, you still probably haven't patched Spectre. And there is no known, nothing in the future here that might be able to fix that. I'm sure somebody will come up with a fix in the future. But so questions that I've been getting: am I affected by the vulnerability? Yes, you are. Just assume that you're being affected by this vulnerability. Can I detect if someone has exploited me through this vulnerability? Probably not. The exploitation does not leave any traces in log files. So that's the challenge here, is that you may have been exploited and you don't even know it. Can my antivirus detect or block this attack? While it's possible in theory, the answer is no. So if you have antivirus protection, which you should have and need to have on your computer, you're not going to be able to detect this at this time. Unlike usual malware, Meltdown and Spectre are hard to distinguish from regular benign applications. However, your antivirus may detect malware, which uses the attacks by comparing binaries after they become known. So if there's been an attack on your computer, somebody has to put something on your computer, and it's possible, to exploit the attack, right? So it's possible that a malware or a virus protection would be able to pick them out on that time, but nobody knows really for sure yet. What can be leaked? And this is where it gets scary, everybody. If your system is infected, our proof of concept exploit can read the memory content of your computer. This includes passwords and sensitive data stored on the system. So, yeah, bank information, passwords, all of that can be exploited by this. Has Meltdown or Spectre been abused in the wild? Meaning that has it been actually used? At the time and through the source that I was using here, they don't know. They don't know if anybody's been exploiting this or not, because it doesn't leave any real telltale signs of it being exploited. Is there a workaround or a fix? There are patches for Meltdown for Linux, Windows, and Apple OS X. There is also work to harden software against future exploitation of Spectre, but it's not 100% that they've got that nailed down yet. And the other thing is, again, I mean, if you apply the patch to Meltdown, you're going to slow your computer up probably 30%. And I'm guessing that on some older computers, that's even going to be more. So it's just crazy. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Well, how long have we known about this? I mean, is this pretty recent?
Very recent. Very recent.
So as we know, there's the good guys and the bad guys right out there. Okay. So the bad guys have probably been exploiting this a little longer, and the good guys just found out about it? Or
we don't know the answer to that. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's possible this has been exploited for a decade already, and somebody on the good guy side just ran across it here not so long ago. It's just like a backdoor to servers, right? Every programmer, I shouldn't say every, but most every programmer that's ever built anything, an operating system, a piece of software, whatever, usually has a back door to them because they want easy access to get into, to make changes, updates, whatever they're doing, right? So they create this back door. Well, sooner or later, there's either a disgruntled employee of that firm or somebody looks at the person who built the software and they start trying things like their daughter's first name or their mom's whatever, they figure this stuff out. They try these things and somehow or another they get into this stuff and then they exploit it, and they don't tell anybody about it. So then they steal millions and millions of credit card numbers or whatever it is, right? So what systems are affected by Meltdown? So it's desktops, laptops, and cloud computers. And that's the thing that I think scares most everybody is the cloud computer side, right? More technically, every Intel processor which implements out-of-order execution is potentially infected, which is effectively every processor since 1995. So this is 23 years ago, except the Intel Titanium and Intel Atom before 2013. So basically, every computer that's out there is probably affected by this. At the moment, it's unclear whether AMD processors are also affected by Meltdown. So it is possible that if you have an AMD processor instead of an Intel, that you might be okay, but we're not 100% sure yet. We're still checking into that. Which systems are affected by Spectre? Almost every system is affected by Spectre. Desktops, laptops, cloud servers, as well as smartphones.
There we go.
Oh boy.
Yep. And this is where Spectre gets, so it's not bad enough that Meltdown has this, the other side of this will impact everything from 1995. Spectre actually gets into the smartphone space. So,
and is there patches for smartphones?
Well, they'll figure this out, I hope.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because, man, if you think about it, we're using our phones a lot more than maybe our computers.
Yes. In fact, right now it's just over 50% of all internet traffic now is coming from smartphones over desktops. So, yes, absolutely. Well, or laptops, right?
Right.
So, yeah. So more specifically, all modern processors capable of keeping many instructions in flight are potentially vulnerable. In particular, we have verified Spectre on Intel, AMD, and ARM processors, which is basically every processor that's out there. So, unbelievable.
My one question would be Is the government vulnerable in this situation as
Yes.
well? Yep.
Everything is.
Yeah, all the computers.
Yeah, every computer. What do you think runs our airlines?
Right.
What do you think runs our power plants?
Yep.
Every computer is vulnerable to this. Yeah, it's a scary scenario.
Boy, it is.
It really is, and some smart people need to figure out the stop.
We need some
this.
appropriate music here. I
Yeah.
think I got some.
Actually, I was looking up the definition of specter, and this is exactly what why they're calling it something widely feared as a possible unpleasant or dangerous occurrence. The specter of a nuclear holocaust. Oh, we got fear. We got fear going on.
We got fear mongering and everything here. So anyway, this is not a show that we usually try to scare people.
No.
on. I mean, we're just telling you what's happening, and this is just a matter of frank discussion that we're having.
Knowledge is the cure for
is.
fear.
And what amazes me is there's not a lot out about this. And I think the reason for it is that they don't want to have a lot of fear mongering going on about this and what's possible here, but. There are things you can do to protect yourself.
Yes.
So please update your stuff. Be aware.
Mm-hmm.
If you're concerned about having stuff on your computer, if you're concerned about opening bank records on your computer and things, you probably should be. And there might be a time until this stuff gets fixed that maybe you should go back to old methods of just doing banking locally.
I do that. I'm just not into banking online.
My wife is that way. She does
Nick
not
is
like
too.
to do anything on
No
the
banking online
desktop.
whatsoever.
Yeah,
Yep.
I like to go see the people in the bank.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe
and then I want to see, hey, where's my money? Can you show me my money?
Maybe it's time that you start doing that again, and until they get some of this stuff fixed, because you just don't know. And the other thing that you can do to maybe protect yourself is change passwords.
Right.
Just get online and have, just start changing passwords, because if the thing is that somebody broke into that system, into your cloud computing system or whatever yesterday, they now have your new username and password. If you just go in and change your password, you've stopped them from gaining access to you again. So as much of a pain as that is, you need to be doing it.
Well, I just changed my password on my phone because I just updated my phone.
Sure.
And then I got an alert that somebody had used my password for my phone in Minneapolis and wanted to know if I was there.
Sure.
Oh, man.
Sure. Well, there you go.
Right.
There you go.
Exactly.
So,
I will say my bank is good. Anytime I've made like large purchases, like bought a computer or something where you're talking several hundred or up to 1,000 or even over 1,000, they call you. They say, "Did you just buy something for $1,200?"
See, and that's nice
and
that
that's
they
good.
do that.
No,
Absolutely.
that's good.
Yeah,
Yes.
I get text messages on mine too. So that when that happens,
And I think one thing I wanted to just bring up is that, hey, go out and check this stuff out yourself.
Yep.
That's what it's all about.
All right, everybody.
We're out of time.
We are out of time. So have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you again next week.